everyone, Rajee Narinesingh here, transgender activist, author, and actress. And you probably recognize me from that reality show, Botched on the E! Network. Hey, what can I say? I'm Rajee. Let me stop acting silly. Oh my God. So I'm coming to you from my very humble home here in South Florida, USA. Hollywood, Florida, to be exact. And I'm saying that with such passion, y'all, because this is my new humble home. Oh my God, I had to move last month and I thought it was gonna literally kill me, okay? I don't know why it felt so damn hard. Um, it had been like 8 years that I was at my old place. Actually, over 8 years. And I just was like, oh my God, am I gonna be able to live through this? Literally, I was hurting from head to toe on moving day. Thank God I had some really great friends who helped me. But it just felt so overwhelming. And I just, when I think about it now, things really did kind of flow. But it was just like, oh God, moving is a pain in the ass. Oh God. But thank God I lived through it. I survived. I'm in my new home. And it's been a little over a month. It's starting to now feel like home. I call it breaking it in. You know, when you move somewhere new, you gotta it takes a while for it to really feel like home. And yeah, I had to break it in a few, in a few ways, in more ways than one. Let me stop being naughty. So anyway, who all out there watches the show Pose on the FX channel? Oh, I love it. And for me, it's so nostalgic because I lived it. I was there in those days. And so for those of you who don't know what Pose is about, it's basically about the LGBTQ community back in the 80s and early 90s, the ball scene, and it was different houses that were created. So, when you're LGBT, unfortunately, even today still, LGBTQ, oftentimes your family won't accept you, and a lot of people in the community are kicked out of their homes and they don't have that family support. So what did people in the community do? Create their own family. So these houses were created, and you would join a house, and then these balls came from the different houses coming together to compete against each other in different categories. So yeah, there were a lot of things during those times going on, devastating things, because HIV and AIDS was oh my God, pretty much a death sentence. There are long-term survivors, but most people died. If you had it back then, I should say many people died. So it was that thing going on. And then, of course, with the trans girls and the whole thing of living to survive, trying to survive with what you have, and getting yourself in dangerous situations, because it was about survival, and a lot of times that meant sex work and that sort of thing. So a lot of stuff was going on, and many of the girls were killed, murdered, and unfortunately in 2019, it's still happening. This year, a number of trans women of color have been murdered. So, we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. But anyway, watching the show is it takes me back. And a lot of the storylines, I'm oh my God, it's about that person. Someone was there that was there at the time on the scene, and an incident that happened to them. I mean, they may spin it a little, but I'll recognize that, oh, that comes from that story or that person, so it is very, very endearing to me. And the music, oh my God, that they played during some of the scenes, just fabulous. Really takes me back. So season 2, this week was episode 4. And oh my God, someone died. One of the main characters, and I was devastated. Oh, I'm not going to say who because I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it. But oh, it was so emotional. And it really, brought me back to the time, to those times where, we were losing people, we were losing friends. And I started to think about someone that is very, very dear to my heart. And I started to think about how the chain of events, if they had gone a different way, would have probably meant an entirely different type of journey for my life. And at the time, I didn't realize how divine and profound it was. And I'll explain. I know y'all are like, bitch, what are you talking about? But as I've lived life and as the years go on, it just becomes even more and more profound to me. So this person that I'm talking about is Ronald Eric Allen. I love you, Ronald. Oh, God. Wait a minute. Ronald, is that you? Let me stop. Oh, God. If it really was, honey, I'd be collapsing right now. So Ronald and I, we grew up in the same neighborhood of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, called Mount Airy, Chestnut Hill, that area of the city. And I knew Ronald. I knew I knew of him and his family, but we went to different schools, so we weren't really connected. Now, Ronald was extremely gifted and talented. He attended the Philadelphia School for Performing Arts, and so what happened was we connected after we both graduated from school. We were the same age. And we connected because we were both on the scene, the gay scene, at the clubs. We had mutual friends and everything. So Ronald and I became close friends. And we started to hang out more and more. And then Ronald started to like me, like more than a friend. And I wasn't feeling it. I loved Ronald. I liked Ronald. It was great having him as a friend, but I wasn't feeling anything more than that, like for like a relationship or whatever. So, as time went on, I mean, he treated me really good. Like we would go out to to shows. He took me to shows and we'd hang out, and we were just like, as time went on, we were getting closer. And I guess my heart started to open up and I started to see him in a different light. And so, for me, it was really initially just hanging out with a friend. I know for him, he was laying it on thick, honey. He was trying to woo me. And it worked. So this one particular night, we went out, and I don't know, like the vibe was right. I don't know. I was looking at him and I was feeling like attracted. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Like, we're going to do it tonight. Like, because he had kind of made some advances before, but it was just like the vibe was right. The stars aligned. I was feeling it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I want him. And after the club, I'm going to have him. So anyway, we went back to, I forgot where we were. It was at a friend's house, but we were able to hang out there because I was still living at home. So he sure as hell couldn't come home to my house, and he was still living at home. So, and I couldn't go to his house, so we were somewhere. And anyway, like I started massaging his shoulders and stuff, and kissing him a little bit and stuff. And like, I could feel him like clenching up, like, oh God, like, no, he wasn't saying it, but that was like his body language. And I'm like thinking like, what's wrong? Like, you've been laying it on thick with me all this time. Like now I'm ready to give it to you. And what's going on? I didn't say it. I was thinking it. So, I'm feeling him. He's like, oh my God, it feels so good. Stop it. stop it. And I stopped for a little bit and then I started again. We were kissing a little bit and he's like, no, no, stop it. And I'm like, Ronald, what's wrong? And he grabbed my hands and he looked in my eyes and he says, I can't. And he says, it's not that I don't want to. He said, it's not that I want to. He says, Lord knows I want to. He says, because I really do like you and care about you and I feel it. But he says, I can't. And he says, one day you'll understand. And I was a little like heartbroken because, now like all this time led up to this and like I was ready and then like now he's turning me down but like, I felt the love still, and I accepted what he said. I was like, okay, all right. So he had gone away to college, to back to college for the next semester because he was going to no, I think he was going to community college in Philly, but he got accepted to college in New York, and so he was leaving to go to college. So he left, and I'm on the train, the subway one day. It was like probably he left in like January, and then it was like maybe March, and I see him on the train. So I'm like, Ronald, what are you doing in town? Because he wasn't supposed to be back until May, and he was coughing, and like he didn't look the greatest, and he looked sick, like he kind of looked like he had the flu or something, and um, he said to me, "Oh, I haven't been feeling well," and I was like getting sick, and so I just dropped out the semester and came home. So he says, "I'm going to the doctor's to find out what's going on." He says, "I can't get rid of this cough, and I've been sick for a few weeks," and so he said, "But I'm going to go back to school." He said, "I'm going back." So anyway, uh, like a little time went on, and then I hear Ronald's in the hospital. So I find out what hospital, and I go down there, and it's like this area, and it was quarantined. It was quarantined, and he wouldn't tell me, but like by then I knew what was up, and that was like in the summer. And then fast forward to Thanksgiving, my mom was making like pies for the holiday. And I had heard that they sent Ronald home. So she said to me, "Well, you want to take a pie? I'll make a pie for Ronald. You want to take one over to him?" So I said, "Oh, yeah, that's good." So she gave it to me and I walked over because we weren't far from each other. And when I walked in the house, his mom was sitting in the living room and she said, "Hey, how you?" And she said, "Well, you can go on upstairs. His grandmother's in the room with him." And I had the pie and I was all happy. And I still was kind of like in denial. But anyway, I walk in the room and when I tell you a living skeleton, he was so thin you could see the bones. It was like, oh my God. And I had to brace myself. Like, I didn't want him to see my reaction, so I still was trying to keep a smile on my face, but I literally just wanted to like break down and cry right there. I didn't know. I didn't. I stayed strong. And I remember I said, "Hi, Ronald. My mom made a pie." And he's like, "Oh, God." He's like, "Oh, I wish I could eat it, but I can't." And he turned to his grandma and he said, "Grandma, help me get up. At least I can smell it." And she helped him like sit up on the bed. And I held the pie there and he just like breathed in the pie and he's like, "Oh, it smells so good." And I stayed, there for a while with him. And And I told him, well, I'm going to get going. And I kissed him, on the forehead. And when I got home, I went in my room and I just broke down crying because I really knew, like, it was solidified now. And this was Thanksgiving, and New Year's Day, Ronald passed away. So literally within that year, it was like he was gone. And I had completely forgot about the moment we had together when he said, listen, I can't, I want to, but I can't, and one day you'll understand. And after he passed away and after the funeral, and I thought about it, and it hit me, and I was like, oh my God, Ronald. He knew that he had it, and he didn't want to get me sick. And, you know, back then we were young and dumb. Honey, we probably wouldn't have used the condom. And Lord knows if I had gotten it, then what would have happened? Like, would I have been able to survive and live? And, I've lived so many years. We were both 21. And I've lived so many years beyond that. And Ronald lives in my heart, and I'll never forget what he did for me, because he could have just been a guy and like horny and been like fuck it, because he wasn't really sick then. He knew he had it, I'm sure, because the way he was talking, but it wasn't evident on the physical. So he could have done that, but he didn't, because he loved me more than that. And so yeah, Ronald Eric Allen. He's been gone a really long time, but I will never forget him and the beautiful spirit that he was. So anyway, just wanted to share a very profound moment in my life. And if you haven't seen Pose, you all better start catching up, okay? All right, it's on Netflix, so you can, binge watch. It is a damn good show. Love, peace, and blessings.